much for to playing my game.
Good evening, fans of the Southeastern Esports League. Welcome back to another week of Rocket League. It's week 4, TJ, and more importantly, it's your birthday. Happy birthday, my friend. How's your day been?
Oh, it's been great. I had to make sure that I came for my main birthday wish, which was to be right here in the SEL desk and watch some good Rocket League. So I drove from home to back to Athens, and then I have to leave tomorrow, obviously to go to the land that we are both working this weekend. So it's already been a whole thing, but it's been a good day.
That's good. I'm glad you're still here with us. I was worried you're going to be off celebrating or something instead of casting Rocket League on your birthday. But welcome to the stream. We got 2 decently sized matchups coming up today. Starting in Tier 1, East Tennessee State versus South Carolina. And there aren't exactly implications with regards to qualification on the line here, as South Carolina has already qualified for playoffs. And whether they get that first round bye is still up in the air. And then East Tennessee State will be in the last chance qualifier, but their seeding is still up in the air. So there is still seeding to play for here, but both these teams are locked in the top half or the bottom half, respectively.
I'm glad you bring up the LCQ seeding, because with how good some of the teams in Tier 2 are, that seeding is going to be important. Somebody's season is going to be ruined from Tier 1, and I think one of the biggest stories that I'm looking at is ETSU, or potentially in Group 2, you have teams like Texas Arlington, teams who are talented, but because they're in the bottom part of their group, and also not in the top half, we'll see how ETSU does tonight. It's a little concerning, especially when you're looking at King, KSUB, etc., etc. There's a lot of talent down there you don't want to mess with.
And I mean, 2 and 4 for East Tennessee State. They've really struggled this season to get going. And even in some of their wins, it's been, I think actually both their wins are Game 5 victories against the lesser teams in their group as well. So a team that finished second place in the fall has struggled in the spring. And I know they're pushing for LAN here. This is Skyline's senior semester. He's done after this. And playing at the SEL LAN, I was something on his to-do list for this spring. Got to qualify, obviously, but then in the other boat, Cats is looking to do the same thing, and ETSU is definitely in a better spot right now with regards to points to qualify for LAN, but South Carolina, TJ, they've been on one lately.
They've looked incredibly good, both on and offline. And the last time that I said that about a USC team, probably never. We've always talked about that this team has not been a LAN team, and that's no disrespect to Cats and them. They just haven't been able to translate their gameplay, but they went all the way up to Cincinnati, looked wonderful. They continue to show out online as well. I mean, they're sitting in a very pretty spot, and at least they're guaranteed a playoff spot.
Top 3 finish at QCC, right?
Yes, they finished 3rd. They beat Ohio State in 6.
That's a good result for them. QCC is not an easy LAN to win, even though there is a LAN winner in the production booth with us right now. But we don't have to mention that. It's not state of the SEL anymore, though. South Carolina is in a heated race for top 2 in the group. You get that first round bye if you finish top 2 in a Tier 1 group. And TJ, I worked out the math. I didn't do it yesterday for State of the SEL for this one group because I forgot. So I got it done before the production here. And South Carolina, I'll break it down simply with context surrounding them. They need to 3-0 sweep East Tennessee State and hope that Florida and Bruton Parker Academy either win in Game 5 or lose their series against some of the lesser opponents in Tier 1. So there's a little bit of hoping that the Gamecocks have to do, even if they do come out here and dominate ETSU.
That's the worst part about their situation, is that nothing really is in their hands. Obviously, they still need to win, but in order for them to jump a singular spot between where they're at sitting in the 4th spot now versus the number 2 spot, it's a pretty fine margin, or a pretty large margin, that is finely defined. It is not going to be easy, and even if they do 3-0 like you mentioned, there's going to be a lot of praying, a lot of hoping that the other teams either lose or don't win in 3, but if you look at the matchups, I don't see how all 3 of those teams, you could argue, don't go 3-0.
Especially with George Mason Academy making the roster change that they've kind of been forced into, even though they're the one in Tier 1. Talking about the two George Mason teams, they had a player poached by the A team playing down in Tier 2 as Jason has been bumped up to the A team, but down into the second tier of the SEL, which is backwards. And T-Hong was telling us last night, TJ, that Sylv, I think is the player name, is the social media manager for George Mason. And that doesn't bode well. Subin, I don't know anything about the Rocket League skill. So I'm assuming that you bring in the social media manager. I'm just kind of imagining what would happen if we brought Sarah in to play a series of Rocket League. It doesn't look good for both GMU Academy and South Carolina.
I mean, credit to Sylv. He is one of the most talented graphic designers in all of collegiate esports. I got to give him his respect where it's due. But like you mentioned, on the pitch, yeah, it's a little sketchy. But at least that George Mason A team looks poised to potentially make another top 12, top 8 run. I know that LAN is pretty distant in terms of their milestones with that new roster, especially losing Titanium. Mm-hmm. But if the LCQ shakes out in a beautiful way for them, which based on their group performance, it could. I don't think it will, but I mean, you got to hold on to that distant faith and just keep pushing on. And also, they will be traveling this weekend, so they got some proving ground moments coming up.
That's true. Boost on the Beach this weekend will be a good spot for them to kind of flex this new roster with Jason getting the bump up, adapt playing. I believe not actually playing for Academy, just on the sub spot for the main team right now. And I mean, talking about that, down in Tier 2, for those wondering why we're talking extra, ETSU's having some technical difficulties. So we're doing State of the SEL version 2 for week 4. But GMU, the A team, is in a heated race of their own in Group 3 of Tier 2, TJ. And UTK and UCF, both teams we saw on stream last week, are the teams fighting with them for those 2 spots in the LCQ.
I mean, Group 3 is as contested as it could be, and we did predict this. That group, we knew those top 5 spots were going to be the closest. They were going to come down to this week. Unfortunately, it's not probably going to be a 3-way tiebreaker. I think it's actually impossible for it to be a 3-way tiebreaker, correct? Because... No. Actually, no, I take that back because UTK, they play George Mason. So that's a pretty big match to look at if you're looking for stuff to watch, maybe off stream. I don't know if maybe Joe Bro and them are streaming it or Zach is. But yeah, a huge matchup going on tonight over there. UCF is, I think, the biggest shocker in that group. We knew that they were capable to come out and show out, but against the reformed UTK team, even though it's not the same as the past guard, I'm still shocked that group looks the way it does right now.
And UCF they control their own destiny. Same with George Mason, as UTK is the team at 3-3 right now. That is in a rough spot. UTK has to beat George Mason and then hope they can win the tiebreakers between UCF and GMU. If there's a 3-way tiebreaker, if it's a 2-way tiebreaker, obviously they would get in over George Mason. But that relies on UCF, I think tonight, beating Louisiana, which is possible. Louisiana's had some scary game 5s against Alabama B included. But UCF...
Well, that game did already happen.
Oh, it did? What do we know the result?
Louisiana wins 3-1.
Okay, well, in that case, that puts... Let me get my papers. So UCF Academy will be at a 53.8% game win percentage. So if UTK ends up winning 3-1 or 3-0 against George Mason, they get into the last chance qualifier, which after what they looked like last week, that was a rough showing, would be, I think, a big win for them.
Also, George Mason in the Rising Star playoffs, I would have never pinned that on my bingo card. I mean, just that program's history alone, it doesn't really matter who's playing for that roster. You expect them to play to a certain level and a certain bar that they set when they step on the pitch. So it's crazy that, in a way, they both, well, not even crazy, they both truly have full control of what's going to come up next. But for George Mason, I would imagine that they're going to come out swinging in game 1. I would imagine we see some crazy strategical changes from them. And UTK Orange has yet to perform under pressure once this season. So I don't know if now is the time or if it's better late than never. I truly don't know what to expect.
Well, we have a lot of tiebreakers elsewhere as well. It's going to be a crazy night of SEL results, especially after the first batch come in for, I believe the odd numbered groups are the ones playing it at 7 Central, and the even ones are playing at 8 Central. So we should know the results of groups 3. Actually, group 3 would be the only group we would know the results of, as everyone else is playing at 8. So still a crazy night. I mean, we have a current 3-way tie. 3 teams are 3-3 in Group 6. Winner of NKU Mississippi State C. Again, an off-stream match that if you can watch, go watch it, because the winner of that we'll see in the last chance qualifier, and Mississippi State C team, TJ, could be fighting it out in the last chance qualifier.
Hey, all I'm going to say, I've played that team before. They are not bad. They are a very nice bunch of GC2s, and they find a way systematically to find some great games. Now, yes, Northern Kentucky should be fine. I would imagine you could put your money on them, but again, they both control their own destiny. It's going to be absurd. It's going to be wild, and we could go group by group and talk about almost everything. I mean, other than I think groups 5 and you mentioned 1 are already settled, but every other group, there's way too many teams with a lot of sweat dripping down right now.
And that's what this portion of the SEL season will do to you. Obviously, we know playoffs will get sweaty, but maybe the teams that are fighting that late into the season are kind of prepared for it. And so it's right now, the end of group stage, to get into the last chance qualifier, and then the last chance qualifier itself, that you really see a lot of the percentage of nerves throughout an SEL season, because you're a player, TJ, or I guess former player now, but a single elim last chance qualifier is not easy to get through, considering you have to play 2 matches in one night and then the qualification match as well.
Yeah, as somebody who's been through the madness, yes, it is not easy by any means. But luckily, a lot of the teams that I'm seeing coming out of Tier 2, I truly have faith in. And especially with the rise of skill across both Tier 1 and Tier 2 this year, this is going to be the most prepared that teams have been in the LCQ ever.
True.
And I know that we've criticized some teams in the past, both on and off stream games, for being messy or kind of crumbling under the pressure. But the good news is that, at least in what we've seen not this series, but we probably will see this series, but this season, everybody's through it together. We have yet to see a team come out and purely dominate on stream. I believe, other than maybe it was Bruton Parker over JMU, and those are 2 titans, and you could even argue that series wasn't very clean. So, everybody's in it together. There's a lot to learn from this season. Also, Rising Star, there's some teams to watch out down there too.
Definitely. I was just talking about it in the green room, that I think, even though it's off stream for the most part, hopefully TJ, you and I could pick up some of those matches. The Rising Star playoffs, I think, is a really exciting initiative of the league to show off some of the A teams that weren't able to cut it in groups, and then a lot of the B and C teams that I'm sure will eventually produce players that are playing on A team, hence the Rising Star name of the playoff bracket. But I'm really excited about that. I think it's going to be cool to see who comes out on top of that, and who takes it seriously as well, who actually has the passion for the game, for improvement with their teammates, even though groups didn't go their way, to fight through a bracket and prepare themselves for the future.
And there's external factors at play, too. And I hate to cut the point in half here, but we are 2 minutes away from a ETSU DQ.
Yeah.
Which I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that's not 3 game wins for South Carolina, is it?
I'll have to look at the rules to make sure I'm completely accurate, but I don't believe it would count for either team. And, okay, Shaka's already got us with the rules, so... it would be a big forfeit, because either way, we did say South Carolina needed a 3-0, but yeah, I think you're right that it doesn't count towards the overall game differential. And for South Carolina, that actually sucks.
That hurts them.
Don't want that. So
they're stuck at 4.
Yeah.
Unless somehow the other 2 lose. But I think we're all past that. Actually, I take that back. Bama, Bruton Parker Academy could be a messy one. But Florida should be clinched if this DQ does roll through, which there's a minute left. So we're watching with a lot of angst here. And it looks like Skyline is rotating PCs. So I hope for his sake he's able to make it. But man, what an ending to the group stage it would be for ETSU if this is how it rolls through.
Yeah, I hope Cats does know that a forfeit win here doesn't do them really any favors, unless they were questioning whether they would get this win or not. But yeah, a long delay here, and I think we are going to go to a break to figure out what's going on. We'll pop back up on stream once we do have a final verdict or Rocket League on the broadcast. So give us just a little bit to get things sorted out. TJ and I will be right back with more SCL action here in a little bit. Welcome back to the Southeastern Esports League. We got bad news, unfortunately. This is a first in the SEL. ETSU loaded into the game lobby at 7:16 Central Time, which is past the point of allotted time. So South Carolina's elected to enforce a forfeit. So South Carolina gets the forfeit W, and will improve to 5-2 on the season, which doesn't help their pursuit of a three-way tiebreaker, really, with Academy and Florida. So that's the ruling right there. South Carolina wins, and we'll have an extended break before our next series. Kentucky and FAU. Yeah, we're just gonna go to another break and play some interviews in the meantime. We'll see you in a little bit. Sorry about that.
I'm doing fantastic. Any time here with Blake, Mr. Bepic, is the best time of my life in esports.
That quote's making it, for sure. So thank you for giving me a great way to open up the video.
Yeah, roster change is the name of UGA Rocket League. That is for sure.
Well, it's definitely gotten off to a slow start, Mr. Bepic.
Very, very rocky.
We feel great, honestly. We had a really good qualifier. We went 4-2.
As we stand right now, it's not going too bad.
I think the season's been great. We lost Cozen, unfortunately, but Nanners has really been picking up the pace. He plays really similarly to Cozen, actually.
But this semester is, especially this split, is a really good opportunity for really all three of our players, myself, Lunetta, and Mird, to learn.
We're definitely looking to regain going into the rest of this, because I think it's just going to be the same as last semester, where it's a slow start and then we pick it up towards the final when it matters.
Yeah, so last semester was my first semester on the team, and I started out as captain, and it was kind of like genuinely a rebuilding period because we had our entire main roster graduate, so we had literally starting from scratch.
Week 1, we had some really good opponents. Yeah, it was a learning experience for us, but week 2, definitely a shaky result as well. However, still have a lot of games in front of us to turn around our season, for sure.
And this is my first time really getting to lead a team, so from a leadership perspective and still learning the game as well, it's a huge learning curve, so we've got a lot to take in.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely looking forward to the next week playing both the Texas teams. We know those guys really well, and we've practiced against them a lot. I think UTA always does better against teams we play more often, so hopefully that advantage helps us next week. And then Florida Southern, a team we haven't really ever played, hopefully we do well. We'll see.
Now, the UTD JV team, those guys are going to be tough. I think they definitely have a shot at taking us, but we should get the edge over them.
This upcoming week is definitely going to be the most important week. I think FAU is kind of sliding by unnoticed a little bit at 4-0.
Bruton Parker Academy. It's my student Kyler. Happy to see what he's been doing at Bruton Parker. That academy team has been getting great results. That being said, they're not beating me. I don't lose to my students. At least I don't like to.
So, yeah, I feel really good about the Georgia match. We swept them during the qualifiers, so that was pretty clean there. So I'm not really too worried about Georgia. Kentucky, we also swept their B team. I don't know how much better their main team is, but I'm feeling confident against that team. And then UAB, I think we'll win that game. So I'm feeling very confident.
I think 3 wins is definitely doable. I mean, the biggest thing is we keep shooting ourselves in the foot, giving teams goals a lot of the time, and that's, we put ourselves in a hole, and we're not quite at a point where we can dig ourselves all the way out yet. We can make it look like it was close, but it's always an uphill effort is what it seems like.
Bruton Parker Academy, I mean, they're obviously a solid team. You know, Milk is a guy I've known for a while, but I still think we should get that done probably in 4, hopefully in 3, but most likely in 4. Florida, we just played against them and went to game 5 and lost. And Florida is a team that, like, if they're on, they're hard to beat just because in Bluegrass quals, they almost beat Fisher. If we can just play our game and force Florida to be awkward, we'll definitely beat them.
ETSU is a little bit of an interesting story. Another one of my students, because the Drift is on that team. I always rate them pretty highly, but they have some interesting problems at the moment internally that they will need to work out. And if they work it out by the time we play them, it will be a difficult match that we believe we can win. And if they don't work it out by the time we play them, I think we're going to walk right through them.
I don't see us losing to South Carolina. So I'm going to just go ahead and say a sweep on that. So hopefully we should finish out strong in all three and go to the playoffs.
I think that there's some new teams that are at the top that are going to be very difficult for us to take down. Texas Dallas is great. James Madison got a huge upgrade getting Pigeon. Florida Southern is very solid.
Ceiling, I think we could make grands. I don't know if we're beating Cumberland, just considering how strong of a team they are.
Of course, Cumberland, if I didn't bring them up, probably get that CECC spot. If I were a betting man, I put money on that. And then, of course, there's Broome Parker and their academy team, which are also very dominant.
You know, our eyes are just focused on trying to make land right now.
Well, we definitely, of course, want to qualify through the top half. I think that's our goal. Being about the top 8 team would be a decent result for us in the SEL. As far as our ceiling, on our day, I think we're one of the best teams in the league for sure.
If I had to put a label on it, aside from individual and team growth, I would say probably LCQ is where we want to end up.
I don't have any expectations, but I genuinely do think that we have the potential to pop off on those days and make that last chance qualifier and make those playoffs.
I would say that our ceiling, being realistic, is probably about top 6. I think we need to be on our game and get a good bracket in order to get there. But double elim also always helps in that regard.
I think we can make it pretty deep into LCQs. We still got a lot of things to figure out. Some of our rotations aren't the best. We've had a lot of issues with comm. We have the potential to get really far into LCQ. I think if we really pick up the pace, I think we can get our way out of LCQ potentially, but we got to play our heart out to get that done.
Thank you so much for watching my video interviews with SEL players. Make sure you tune into the SEL this Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central Time for Week 3 of the Spring Split. Welcome back. A little bit sooner than we were thinking, but Florida Atlantic and Kentucky have agreed to play their big match when it comes to the results and the winner of Tier 2 Group 4 a little bit early, TJ. So we are back, and some crazy stuff has happened in the meantime.
Well, obviously, when we left everybody, ETSU had unfortunately shown up a few minutes late, and so they had to kind of just take it on the chin and move on, and that's the end of their group stage, so we'll have to see how they do in the LCQ. Yep. But also, now we get Kentucky and FAU, two teams sitting at the top of their Tier 2 group. They are the only group with two undefeated teams with 6 wins apiece. I think they will go down as the only group at all with 2 teams with 6 wins. So this is super exciting. These are 2 real contenders in the LCQ who've also made roster moves in the last year as well.
Yeah, I mean, the bombest when we had Kentucky on earlier in the season, I believe that was week 1, they played UGA, looked phenomenal for them. He's the one that took Apple's shoes from him after the SEL Hall of Famer graduated this past spring. And FAU losing Hammy Crackers, a pretty big storyline when you talk about the Owls this year, but they've done fairly well without him. And I know Skies had a lot to say about this specific matchup when talking about why FAU was left off of the top 8 in the Tier 2 power rankings this past week, saying that if they beat Kentucky, they had better be in, I think, the top half is what we agreed to in our power rankings. So a lot of the line here, even though both of these teams are locks for the LCQ.
I mean, Skies is always the most outspoken on this team. Hammy never was outspoken in Discord or in Twitter or anything. So Skies has always been the one to lead the charge in terms of what he believes this team can truly stand for, and what will they stand atop of when this is all said and done. Will it be Group 4?
Well, let's get it going. Winner is outright top team coming out of their respective group. And with the way we changed how we schedule matches, no longer having to do, for the most part, with seeding in groups and all the randomization we do with selecting groups, we don't get these kind of matches anymore. But back in the SEL day, this was a staple of Week 4. More than likely, half of the groups were going into Week 4 with 2 teams at the top at 6-0, expected to be 6-0, which is why they were the top seed. So I'm glad we at least get one. And, well, let's get this thing done with. Let's see who is the top dog in Group 4 and who jumps up the power ranking standings in Tier 2 of SCL.
It's going to start out with a decent amount of Kentucky control, as it will fall into their back corner for the time being. But this Kentucky roster, as they will give up one to Stan here, I'll have to hold my point because FAU strikes first. All
right, well, good start for the Owls. A center ball that makes Huds and Chip a little bit too awkward there on the goal line. Great cleanup from FAU, and even though they don't have the mechanical infusion that Hammy Crackers used to have that elevated this team, they have a solid trio behind them. They can hit shots, they can win challenges, and there's Skies for you. 2-0 FAU.
FAU's got the element of surprise against Kentucky. This is a roster that has gone under the shadows for what Skies would say is way too long. It doesn't matter that Hammy's not there. This team's got a new identity.
2-0, a minute in. FAU's kind of shell-shocking Kentucky at the moment. This could be 3. Mitra's got the 3rd. The FAU Owls are off on a tear.
I mean, blink and you might miss it. That's double bugs there, as from our perspective, it looked like that both the ball went through a car and a car went through a car. So, you know what? Sure, FAU. 3 in the first minute here.
Yeah, all right. Let's see how Kentucky comes back from this, or if FAU just continue to drop them in a hole. And last time we did see Kentucky on the mainstream, they were playing a UGA team that won't make it to the last chance qualifier, and they look good against those Bulldogs, and obviously 6-0 says a lot about Kentucky, but so far, the Owls are handling them as we've played the first 65% of the first 90 seconds in the Kentucky half, and it's 4-0.
It's complete discombobulation for Kentucky. It's lost 50s, it's overcommitting, and only within the first minute 20 here. So luckily for them, it is a best of 5, and it's only here in game 1, but something's got to change quick here if they even want a chance at this game.
I mean, Kentucky just got one shot. They've had to play the bulk of this first stretch on their goal line, and finally the Wildcats will get something right there. It's not much of anything, it's just kind of a center ball, and FAU take it all away, find a clear, and we'll get right back to playing offense, it seems.
Huds will try to find Bombus, but a miss there, and then another awkward 50. Chipmunk will find a bump, but once again, FAU are rolling through the punches very well, as now Mitra set up with the backboard back to himself. How about one more time? An encore here for the 5th.
This is unbelievable. I mean, 2 minutes, FAU are outright dominating a team that should be even stature with this roster, at the very least, within groups. And, I mean, 5-0 says a lot in game one. Like you said, TJ, there is a lot of Rocket League left to be played, but this is a statement coming out here in 5-0 in Kentucky in the first couple minutes.
We talked about Skies. Again, he wants everybody to know this FAU team, A, should have been power ranked, and if it's not by this week, then it better be by next week. And so far, they're giving us all the reason to put them maybe even in that top 4. I'm not even sure yet, but again, like I mentioned earlier, there's still way too much Rocket League left to be played for me to jump the gun just yet, and especially knowing how controlled this Kentucky team can be, I don't think we're out of this one just yet. I mean, we are halfway through. It's a 5-goal deficit. I do see the reason to count them out, but I mean, as of right now, Kentucky's still decently in the driver's seat, but they've got to get out of their own half.
If it were 6 goals, I'd call it done. But 5 goals, I think, is in the realm of possibility when it comes to SEL series, especially on Last Chance Qualifier Eve. This is where the season starts to get weird, and the results start to get weirder. With 2 minutes left, Kentucky is slowly working their way into offense, but they still have yet to score a goal to show for all their efforts, and that could be it.
There you go. Right side does open up, as you mentioned it, and Kentucky finally strikes for their first one of the series. And I'm glad you said that if it was 6, it was out, but for 5, it's believable. We've seen worse games and worse endings on this stream.
And we've seen a lot of Rocket League on this stream in the past, but crazy things do seem to happen around this time. There's one, but Kentucky need to tap into the insanity of the SEL here, and Chip's got the ball. It's a guy that can pull goals out of nowhere, but not so much right there. Stopped by Stan of the Bombist and Huds. When the ball out right, Chip is denied by Skies, and that will bleed a lot of clock here in game 1.
Skies throwing this ball middle to Stan, who is there to find the aforementioned 6th goal, and with 90 seconds left, maybe it's time to close the curtains on game 1. Just maybe.
Hey, I made a promise. 6 goals, it's over. Kentucky is not going to find a way back here. But looking ahead in this set, that end-of-game resurgence that they seem to be starting, if it continues, bodes well for Game 2, because FAU, maybe they just got a hot start in this series. And I think if we know anything about Tier 2, TJ, it's that inconsistency is a plague that still does affect the majority of teams.
Tier 1 and Tier 2 alike.
Sure.
I mean, it is a condition that does not discriminate, and I expect it to be very prevalent in the rest of the games tonight, since maybe there is a little bit of some sort of omen in the air that we didn't get to even see a first series, because this one's odd. Messi and Stan will send us to Brazil off of a back-and-forth shot.
Stan says, nope, that's mine, after a little while longer of sitting on the Kentucky goal line. 7-1. And FAU continue the statement made at the start of this one. 5 goals in the first 2 minutes, and then too late to really... What's the term for the end caps of a series? Man, I forgot the word for it. At the end of
You can just say it's over.
Yeah, it's over. 7-1, it's over.
I mean, 40 seconds left. I'm actually against Kentucky pulling out the fake kickoff there. I mean, you might as well hold every strategy that you can and try and pull something out of the hat for that game number 2, because, like we've already mentioned, it's for sure over, and FAU may have a little bit of fun with it, but this is a completely revitalized Owls roster. I've never seen an FAU team play like this, even with Hammy Crackers.
Bookended. They bookended the game with a good start and a good finish. I got there eventually. I had time to think about it, though, because we're just kind of having a victory lap at the moment here. But I am a big fan of the Owls coming out like this, because this season has been up and down so far for them. I know Skies, when we were talking about power rankings, said not to count CCS results, but they took a while to get a win in CCS against some teams that I think they should be beating. But FAU, I watched them play San Diego State earlier in the season. They looked good there, but still did lose. And I think for the Owls, it's been about piecing together wins throughout entire series, looking consistent in doing it. And here, I mean, if they can keep up this performance, show some consistency, they're going to be all right against Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, this Kentucky team, it's always been fun meta. No matter who's been on the roster for the last 2 years for Kentucky, this team's always tried to enjoy when they play Rocket League. But I think this specific version of Kentucky sometimes gets lost in that sauce a little bit. Chipmunk, Bombus, Huds, all incredible people who I love spending time with, don't get me wrong, but I don't hear Huds and Chipmunk talk about getting on and playing ranked, which credit to them. Chipmunk's got a lot he's doing outside of Rocket League, but Bombus is really the only real consistent light on this Kentucky roster, and Hud's an extremely talented player who played with Apples, played with Ty, played with so many incredible Kentucky players. He's got to be the one that I need to see step up, especially in the midfield. They're losing way too much ground.
I mean, Huds was, after Ty left, that original Kentucky roster that we all know and love, the guy that was supposed to fill Ty's shoes, and I think he does do a good job of that occasionally, but he's not quite the same consistent force that Ty was for this team. But the future is still now, and there still is at least a couple more games of Rocket League for Kentucky to find a way back here, and I think they should be all right, and Chip has switched the McLaren.
He did it. That right there is for the Kentucky culture. I truly am. I'm ecstatic to see Chipmunk back in the McLaren. Anytime that I've seen this man on a stream match, he has shown that McLaren's got so much usage for no reason. And so far, he actually is leading the way in the offensive half. As Bombus will try to drop one down here. But again, that fun meta prevails.
I'm glad to see it. And I mean, already it's a better start, because in the first 30 seconds of game one, I think FAU had spent maybe 100% of the time in that Kentucky end. But here it's defense for FAU for a moment, but FAU did find their quick hit on the other end, though stopped by Chip.
If Chipmunk's not in the McLaren, he doesn't hit that. That's all I'm saying. I got to make sure that's public knowledge, is that car has magic when it's in his hands. And so far, Kentucky seemingly waking up. Maybe came into this series not prepared for this FAU roster, which, again, has gone under many people's radars, as Bombus will try to drop one down. But Kentucky's still rolling with the midfield swing of play here. But FAU now starting to settle into, I think, what will be their true pace.
Kentucky did say in the post-game one chat that they wanted a redo, among other things, but Chip did say he wanted a redo, and luckily for him, Kentucky does kind of get a redo. The scoreboard resets, and so far the redo was being taken advantage of. That could be the first goal if Huds can win the race to the ball, and he does. 1-0 Wildcats.
That's the second time that Kentucky's found a beat right in front of the net. This time they rotate correctly. Huds is there uncontested, and now Kentucky strikes first. So how will they kind of parlay this into a potential Game 2 win?
And how will FAU respond to playing with their first deficit of this series? It was smooth sailing for the Owls in Game 1. Came out and put on a light show in that blue net. But at the moment, they have to work from their back foot, work into offense, and it isn't all that easy for an FAU team that had the bulk of the field domination in Game 1 of this set. So Skies will be on the ball now, trying to create space, and this is where I don't know who the guy to step up would be for this team, because I think all three of them have moments where they can be the space creator, the guy that sets up his teammates, and at the moment, it's unfortunately none of them, as Chip is the guy for Kentucky to score the second goal.
I mean, opened up by his own beat, and that's a triple commit from FAU. So now is going to be the really interesting part of this series, where FAU, yes, this group is hard, don't get me wrong, but they have not been truly tested to an LCQ degree level, as in like that round 2, round 3 matchup. And this Kentucky team is a perfect scrim for them, but there is still a decent amount of weight. That 1 seed will go a long way, and they've got to start pulling some tricks out of their hat this time.
I know this isn't State of the SEL, so we can't debate on it, really, but I'd argue that Florida State could be last chance qualifier material, as they took FAU to Game 5, so that was a test, at least, in going the distance for the Owls, but I will concede that Kentucky is the best litmus test for a team in this group, and no one has gotten the better of them so far. And their game differential is pretty solid as well. With 2 minutes left, I think in Game 2 on Forbidden Temple, they've flexed that fact.
I won't open up the podcasting either for the stream tonight, but I am glad you bring up that Game 5 FAU run. They've had multiple scary Game 5s against teams that they have no business going that close with. I mean, I'm thinking of, unfortunately, my own boys, the UGA crew went to 5 with this FAU roster, and they have proven time and time again that they've got the clutch factor, but they also put themselves in those shoes.
That was my reasoning for keeping them out of the top 8 in the Tier 2 power rankings this past week, because they've had scares. I mean, Clemson Purple, Game 5, UGA, Game 5, and those are teams that probably aren't making it to the last chance qualifier. And Kentucky seemed to be just kind of adding to our dog pile on FAU at this point with a 3-0 response to getting blown out by the Owls in Game 1.
I mean, once again, the FAU backline is struggling under the pressure. We're finally starting to see Kentucky stress test with some mechanics and some teamwork in that front half for FAU's side of things, and they can't really fight back just yet. But 90 seconds left, 3 goals, still some room to work with. They got to stop Chipmunk here first without McLaren. So with this final 80-second stretch still looking Kentucky favored, I'm wondering in Game 3 which version of these teams we get. The Game 1 FAU that could do no wrong in offense, or the Game 2 Kentucky that has found a majority of the field domination and good stops on the other end until now. FAU in the final 60 seconds seem to be onto something. Mitra able to get that huge second touchdown. I don't think either of the Kentucky backmen expected. And so now, 2-goal differential, 60 seconds left. There's some room for action here. Let's see what happens here, because that was off the back of a Kentucky mistake in defense. FAU still need to create some more opportunities for themselves, and Sky on the ball could do that. It's a big dunk. Bombast is awkward again, and Mitra now will have space in the Kentucky corner with Bombast pre-jumping actually successfully. I did not see that coming, and Kentucky off the back of that could build towards a clear. 40 seconds. Kentucky aware of that, trying to be mindful of the boost, as you'll see Chipmunk going all the way up to that midfield and is able to stall out Skies. And now Huds does grab that back corner, and Chipmunk will have to cover for him. He's bumped off the ball, as Kentucky not exactly taking their foot off the gas pedal. They'll try and maybe find one more, but Bombas actually is opting for the complete third-man role, and he doesn't mind staying back there. He is probably the more consistent member of the Wildcats roster, and now he's going to be tested on the back line again, and an easy save for him. 10 seconds left for the Bombas. He will be demoed, but opens up the door for another stalling play, and that right there will be the end of Game 2. As I got a little worried there for a second, but FAU showed some signs of life late, but Kentucky, incredible control for about, I would say, 4 minutes and maybe even 30 seconds of that series. I mean, field domination ended at 60%, but before FAU had that final burst of offense there in the last minute, it was about 75-25 field domination heading into the final 60 seconds of that game. So Kentucky, I think this is true for both teams. If they have the majority of the possession and just keep their opponent stunted, staying on the back line without a whole lot of resources to transition the ball effectively, then that should be their game. And we've seen that with 100% conversion rate for both of these rosters, limiting their opponent's resources, field domination in their favor. They've won the games where that is the pair of stat categories that they're winning in. I mean, so far, Game 1 seemed like it was just I don't even know what you would call it for Kentucky. Maybe they were just completely asleep. Maybe it was a nap to start this series off. I mean, it's 9 o'clock Eastern. Who knows what's been going on over in Lexington, but they've shown now the team that we expected them to be. And I have to bring up the question you asked earlier was, what versions of these two teams are we going to see? Yep. First chat, I might as well throw my bets in. If I'm a betting man, I'm actually going to go with what I think is the more grinding roster out of the two. Give me FAU here, maybe by 2 goals. I think it depends a good bit on how it starts here. Who sets that tone and who can limit the other team's ability to fight back. And so far, FAU will start well when it comes to possession, but Huds has some space off the ceiling. The ball is stripped from him. Skies
playing towards the corner. Get an extra touch, but Mitra still gets to shoot the ball. Stan on rebound duty is denied by the Bombus, but Skies on rebound to the rebound duty. It connects with the Kentucky Nets, and it is the Owls starting out faster.
Not bad 50s for Bombus, but unfortunately he can't find any more touches, and it'll stay middle. It's a dangerous play to make no matter who you are, regardless of what team you're on, and 30 seconds in, you give FAU their first.
All right, this might go the distance here if these two teams continue the back and forth nature. And so we've come to expect, I think, with a series on stream, of course, sponsored by MSI as well. I had to throw that in there in the middle of the set. But shout out to our Rocket League sponsor this season, MSI. And shout out to Skies, doubling up here for FAU.
Calm little own goal as Bombus threw a miles per hour prediction in the chat, I think. Or I mean, this team's just having fun even when they're getting scored on. But for FAU, huge swing to start the game off once again. It's looking eerily similar to game one. They just need, I think, one more goal exactly.
Well, he was wrong about the miles per hour guess. Unfortunately, that will just add insult to injury for Kentucky, down by 2 goals. And TJ, I think your prediction was spot on. So far, we're getting an FAU rinse and repeat of game one. Not quite as many goals, but the second edition is, I think, just as favorable for the Owls.
Well, they don't hire me on RLCS, Bevic. My expertise is in GC3 to low SSL College Rocket League. So if I got that down, then we're in for a good series, because I would also hope we see 5. But the ball is for sure in FAU's court. Now it's up to them to bounce back after they caught a lacking and sleeping Kentucky. And if they can show out again in a 6-1, 5-1 fashion, I would say Game 4 might just be over already.
We'll see what happens. If anything, this series has given us unpredictability so far. And now I'm curious how Kentucky fights back. If it is the late surge like we saw in game one, or if they can work their way out of defense and find any possession to work with mid-game. As right now, it's 75-25 with FAU dominating the possession game.
Skies will call off his teammate as well. He's got room to go to work. He will go for the fake and give off to Stan, who's bombed. Kentucky is finding some rhythm in their defensive side, but they're not finding anyone middle, as now both members of Kentucky are in a line directly in their net. As now Hudson Chipmunk will miscommunicate. They will leave the net wide open, and Skies has to dog walk it in, and that's exactly what he'll do. It's now a 3-goal lead.
Risky commit here from Huds, as there were 2 FAU players in the area, and he has to go from ground essentially to the ceiling to get to that ball, and FAU punish him promptly. Nicely done, good speed out of the Owls, and just keep on rolling with the FAU train, I suppose.
Very out of character for Huds as well, and as I say that, he almost hits a on-character moment where he looked top right, but now it'll be up to Chipmunk and Bombus to reset and go to that left side. It will be off for now, as now Mitra has the counter. He'll find Skies if he can get to it. He's got to use a flip and a whole lot of boost. Will 50 Bombus, but Stan now has to backflip and has to be careful. You can't give Chipmunk a free pass, but they will not. Mitra is there with no boost to delay and eventually find Skies, who won't be able to find Stan. Bombus down to Huds. Huds back to Chipmunk. Chipmunk over towards the backboard. Bombus can't get there, though. And Kentucky, once again, they're showing life, but they're lacking midfield. They're lacking the extra touch and overall control.
Well, the passes are connecting at the very least, and Mitra uses that pattern to intervene with that one and get an extra touch off the corner bounce and aim to pass backward at Stan, but that wasn't the play that Stan was expecting. So Kentucky get themselves some more possession, and it's not exactly a late surge. I'd call maybe some life in the final 90 seconds late for Kentucky, but it took their sweet time to really get going offensively, though still need that first goal to show for their efforts.
This time with 90 seconds left, it's not a blowout, so we can actually count Kentucky in. And if they can find a goal, I mean, at least here in the next 20 seconds, I would say it's still doable. And it feels just like what we saw FAU try to do last game, but this game is extremely different. They go up 4-0.
So much space here for Skies. I mean, he hits that ball, doesn't stay up with it, maybe expecting a teammate to go up for it or someone from Kentucky to actually challenge that ball, and sees no one's going and gets all 4 wheels on the ground, resets the aerial, and finishes off the play with a beautiful shot. And this is what FAU does. They're just a roster that can be a triple threat when it comes to consistent shooting, when it comes to effective midfield play, and they've shown that here, although Stan has let that ball slip by him and relies on Mitra to advance the ball as far as Chip there at the meeting ground between FAU's defensive third and the middle third.
Bombas will try to give Kentucky a last chance as Hudz is pre-jumped across the net. Now Chipmunk's bumped off as well. Is able to find a touch, but I'm not sure what Kentucky can do here. They're losing every chance as Mitra will out 50 Bombas here as well, and Mitra will do it once again and will find Stan. The net's wide open. Stan's got to get around it, and that's too easy, and this right there is probably the dagger.
So, 12 goals for FAU across the 2 games that they've won, and a singular goal in the 1 game that they've lost. I'm noticing a trend here that you don't need to be a big brain to bring up, is when FAU start off strong, control possession, and keep Kentucky's resources limited, they're winning games, and that's been a pattern so far through 2 games now. And for Kentucky, they don't seem to have an answer when they're backed up on their goal line. Like you said, TJ, their midfield just really isn't present.
It's definitely a overall lack of mechanical consistency on top of the communication and teamwork that the average offensive pressure scenario would contain. And that's a very roundabout way of me saying that Kentucky needs to start playing the game. And even though you can't change that in the next 5 seconds here, you've got to at least slow it down and play to your strengths. Even if you're not that confident in what you can do, you have to play to what you are able to do. And Kentucky, I'm not sure if they've got anything other than Bombas right now they can count on.
And even then, Bombast was fairly limited that game. Just a single shot and 1 save to toss in there as well. HUD's unfortunately hitting double digits if you tally up the points on stream right now if you're that skilled. And FAU has come out swinging the last couple of games. All blowouts, but that gets the match point here.
Excuse me laughing. Kentucky is fake leaking IPs of FAU. Hey, in a fun matter, I must clarify for the people who can't see Game Chat right now. Hey, at least they're having a good time, right? Because we are very confused, and I'm very taken aback at what we're seeing. And we don't exactly have like an all-star break in the SCL, but I would imagine that one of the awards would be Wildest Series on Stream. This has got to be up there, if not the wildest one of the season. I can't explain to you really anything that's happened other than I don't know how Kentucky is still alive in this series.
Well, they look good in game 2, and that's all about what they have in this best of 5. And in game 4, they have to replicate that somehow. So for Kentucky, I mean, the passing game looks pretty good. They're finding some space with that, but it's the follow-ups after their opportunities and the possession control that has kind of killed them so far outside of their Forbidden Temple performance. And we'll see if they go back to that, introducing the passing plays that look good on Driftwoods. But there we go. Chip and HUD's up together, and that results in a goal. Okay.
Yeah, in the industry, Bebic, we call that tech. I mean, HUD's and Chipmunk are just completely out of sorts here, and HUD's just is uncontested. Nobody from FAU knows what to do, and if you're coaching Kentucky right now or trying to help them out at all, I think the only way Kentucky's able to win a game is if they score first, or at least in bunches first. And Bombas could find something off the corner here, but like I mentioned, if Bombas is the only guy you can count on, you need an early lead. And for FAU, they're probably equally aware of that, as like you mentioned in their only loss, they dropped 1 goal. So trying to beat their record, and they could do it right here, but Skies and Stan won't be able to find anything, and Bombas will 50 past 3.
And Stan will retreat with the ball. Everyone was out in front of the Kentucky net. Everyone was pretty much committing for the ball. And FAU are sent packing. Close shave, though, and this might be the first game we actually have that goes back and forth the whole time. Not just one team dominating the first couple of minutes, and then it's over at that point. But FAU still need their first, as they're down 1, but their transition game is looking effective.
Don't jinx it yet, Bepic. 4 minutes left to go, and Kentucky actually could find one here, but HUD's is bumped to the skies by Skies, who will now try and find a counterattack and maybe even an equal opportunity for FAU as players are diving across the entire field, but Mitra will be the one to actually find a touch to his teammate. Skies there to Mitra. Mitra back to the net, but Chipmunk, what a save from him, as I think he is. He's off the McLaren now, so another car change.
We'll see if the Octane is as effective as the Game 2 McLaren was, but That's a good start on it, at least. Now Mitra's trying his hand at a big play, but the Bombist has the backboard covered for Kentucky. Stands a bit awkward. That net is somewhat open, and the Bombist will look to make it even more so for his teammates, and FAU was scrambled after the Bombist had them jumping on their goal line. That opens the door for HUD to make it 2 for Kentucky.
Well, here's the HUDs we're used to casting, using all this boost to barely get over, not just one, but the second on the backboard as well. If Kentucky can actually get him in rhythm, we will see Game 5.
Good kickoff win. FAU have a little bit of space, but Chip plays the ball between 2 orange cars. 50's at center. Hudson, Bombist are both up for it, so double commit that could get FAU out of defense if Hudson doesn't react quickly with boost. Center the ball for anybody. I think Chip was maybe running interference right there, not expecting a passing play, but either way, FAU doesn't have too many answers for what Kentucky's doing in offense.
What a 50 from Stan as well, just staring at the Kentucky offense on his own back line, and that's a huge play down 2 as well. That could have opened the door for a counterattack, but there's no boost for FAU. And now Stan finally will find something, but he already had to go all the way back, and he gives it away. Huds has one bottom right, but it is pushed slightly off. Skies will try to stay on this, but again, FAU and Boost are not friends right now, as halfway through game number 4, things are leaning in favor of Kentucky, but can they actually hold the lead once again?
FAU has shown good glimpses in this game. Their offense has only generated 1 shot, but their possession has been fairly high quality, getting out in front of the Kentucky net a couple of times here. And the final 2 minutes, there is room for a comeback out of the Owls. Mitra's up for this, maybe setting up themselves for an extra couple of touches. Flip reset out in front, gives Skies a chance to shoot top right, and Skies gets the Owls on the board, and game 4 ain't over yet.
All right, Mitra, we see you. All 3 members of FAU extremely aggressive to find this goal, but if that's the style that works for them, then go for it. 1 goal deficit here with 2 minutes left to go.
Just trusting their solo playability, and Kentucky might get a little scrambled there on their own defensive line. But now Huds is looking to do the same to FAU as the Chipmunk man in support. The bomb is behind the play to clear the ball long into FAU territory. Stan has missed, but Mitra was prepared for that eventuality, chases the ball downfield, forces the Bombist to center it, but the Wildcats do well in defense.
I believe that bump did come through as well, so probably should have been an open net, and now could be a Kentucky counter, but Huds will just barely push that one away, and now Mitra has a chance to go the full length. Huds can't go, Stan and Skies can't go, and they also have no boost, so once again, FAU trying to make this aggressive style work, but Mitra's the only one with even a glimpse of boost in his tank as Bombist musties to net, double commit, bumps as well in front of the orange half, or the red half, for Stream's perspective, as Mitra will try to push this one up and over 1, and kind of will do so. Skies now has the backboard. The entire lobby might just jump for this one, and now a minute left. Kentucky's got to stand strong.
That pass is the right idea, but unfortunately Skies put too much venom on the center ball to Mitra. Now Stan is bumped off the ball, but recovers awkwardly. Though has support from the rest of his teammates on the goal line. A save from Mitra, and Stan up field grab 100, win a 50. Chipmunk man's the only player left, and he's been taken out, but Huds tracks back quickly. They make a big stop with 30 seconds to go.
Mitra now gets to reset after a incredible save from Huds, and now he'll try to put him on his back foot again, but Bombist is there, and Chipmunk's there to deny as well, but now Huds has to be careful. We'll go all the way back and try to rip this over 1. Sky's there, but again, no boost, and Stan, will he be able to beat 1? No, but forces the double commit. 10 seconds left. Sky, Stan, both beat, but now there's a free right wall. Stan has room, will look up and over, beats 1. Mitra's there for the redirect. Is there a shot from 1 more? Huds misses, Sky's on the net! He hits it low and far, and we're going to 5.
Of course we're going to game 5. I mean, the back and forth that we've seen, maybe not within individual games, except for our visit to Utopia Coliseum here, but throughout the series, I think suggested that these two, both 6-0, undefeated rosters to the top of their group, need a single game to determine who the better roster is. And there, Kentucky, it wasn't the one-sided scoreline we've grown accustomed to in this set, but when you look at field domination and shots, Kentucky had the higher producing offense, and that ultimately, plus some saves there in the last couple of minutes, TJ, is what gets them over the line.
I mean, I'm super confused. There's very few series that we see where I normally can't get a hand on it. We've seen 4 different teams in each and every game so far. Kentucky looks great. FAU looks great. They both look miserable. They both look great. I can't tell what I'm seeing anymore. And now in Game 5, I hope we get a repeat of Game 4. I hope we get a close one. And now this right here, there's no more excuses. You're on Champions Field. You've gotten 4 games of basically warm-up at this point, other than Game 4. What is in the cards if you're FAU trying to bounce back here?
That's a great question, and I don't know if I've got any kind of answer to what might happen on Champions Field between these two. But this kind of has the Buds at GSU Alabama Last Chance Qualifier finale in the fall vibes to it, with gameplay that maybe isn't the greatest, but we're in Game 5, and it sure is entertaining. The demo from behind to prevent Mitra from stealing the spotlights, and we'll get into the first 30 seconds of Game 5, maybe without a goal.
Man, this might be the best stream series of the entire 2024-2025 season, as this one will be saved away. But we get a Buds mention, we get a crazy scoring differential, and we get Game 5 with 2 undefeated teams. What more can you ask for? I mean, happy birthday to me, I guess, at the liberty of what can Kentucky do here to maybe get the action going. But no candles being blown out just yet. Shots will be denied by FAU, and Bombas will try to keep the pressure on once more.
Center ball for Kentucky. A couple options for the Bombist right there, but the ball doesn't meet any of them. Chipmunk man salvaging possession for Kentucky for a moment longer, though FAU will clear. I do have to shout out Mitra for his work on the ball for FAU. It seems like in this series, at least in the series that has contained the good FAU team, Mitra is the guy to create space for this roster, and Skies can do it as well, but I think if there is going to be a guy that solo play sets up teammates or finishes the play himself, it's Mitra at the moment, and he's the guy you want to aim for if you're trying to pass the ball or give a guy some space.
Seems like both teams trying to find that X factor to lean on here in a crucial Game 5 that both teams have experience, and Huds is almost performing to that role exactly as he looks at that top corner, but it goes both ways. What a save from, I believe, 2 FAU defenders, but they're not out of the woods just yet. Huds will try to dunk one down, but Bevit, correct me if I'm wrong, but 2 minutes of scoreless Rocket League in this series, that's a new one.
I do believe so. I don't have to think too hard about that one. The offenses have been tearing apart their opponents in alternating games, and 2 minutes in, this does feel weird that we haven't gotten a goal yet. Kentucky will try to change that, and it's Chip from the heavens above that will do just that.
Chipmunk out of nowhere at 1,000 miles an hour beating 2 FAU players. A major way for the captain to step up here.
That shot too. I mean, got all of that ball with his front bumper, and Kentucky will draw first blood here, but possession's about 50-50. Opportunities have been close to 50-50, especially once FAU does register a shot, but this bodes well for Kentucky as they have the first goal that has typically led to that game's winner.
Huds try to give Kentucky some room as he's probably kicking himself a little bit, as we should be looking at 2-0 after that double, but Chipmunk could find one of his own. Bombers could find a rebound, but FAU, though narrowly avoiding some scores, they are still in this game and very much a threat. Hud's ceiling pinch is just barely off, as I'm not sure what bag that just came out of, as Chipmunk will try to find his teammate, but now it's Stan to Sky. Sky's on the net, but saved by Bombas. Now Stan back middle. Mitra's there, but Bombas saves once again. This one going back. Huds will save. Chipmunk's up next, has to touch this away to Huds. Huds will go back to his teammate. 3-man play for Kentucky, and their synergy's at an all-time high, as this one could sit in front, but Mitra once again for FAU doing a great job on defense, giving them some time, and now the net's wide open.
Huds will get the stop. The shot wasn't on target, but it still did test Kentucky's defense. Now Skies right there, a little bit awkward going for the ball, and FAU is having a tough time getting established possession in the Kentucky end. Stan will try to change that with Skies on the sidewall, and the pass does connect. Skies against the Bombist here, goes backboard, forces the ball right there on the near side of Kentucky's net, but that's as far as it goes. No center ball, and FAU retreat.
Chipmunks beat. This could be a 3v1, but again, Bombas on the back line is undefeated. It's feeling very similar to that UGA series we saw on stream just about 2-ish, 3-ish weeks ago, but This one could come down to the wire as Huds needs to make this touch and will. Bombas can't find it though. Skies has a shot. He's going backboard. Is there a third man to answer the call? No, it's Chipmunk who will rip this one out. The net's open. Stan's got to hit this one away. It's now 40 seconds left. Kentucky looking to end it right here and now.
Big clear though. Meters upfield, puts a redirection in the general direction of Kentucky's net, but it is off target and at the Bombas is Octane. Now pass across. We'll get to Sky. It's going to be mid. And Kentucky is just passing back and forth. Feels like they're trying to play monkey in the middle with FAU as the monkey instead of an owl. And that's working to kill time at the moment as FAU is still scoreless. 20 seconds to go despite some decent looks that just haven't really turned into shots. So this could. Huds is low on boost, but does meet the shooter of FAU, and Kentucky will clear.
Bombas has the game in his hands, and this is a sight you want to see if you're a Kentucky fan. He'll drop this one, but Stan's got a chance, but nobody's there. Kentucky, through all of the smoke and the mirrors and all of the clown show, sideshow madness, find their way into a Game 5 series win. What an odd one.
I'm with you there. I'm glad that there were multiple people watching that with us so that we know this wasn't just a joint hallucination between me and TJ. That was a crazy way to give Kentucky the #1 seed coming out of Group 4. And their game differential's pretty good as well, so they might be one of the top seeds going into the LCQ from Tier 2. But yeah, TJ, that's a display of some Tier 2 SCL Rocket League right there.
You're nicer than me. It's a display. And that's all that I got. I mean, full credit to Kentucky and FAU. They are very deserving of being at the top of this group. But I know that Florida State is looking at this series, and they've got to be reeling a little bit. Because if they can be the cleanest team out of this group, the second hardest group in Tier 2, they'll be in a great spot in the LCQ. But for now, Kentucky survives a nail-biter in a way. I don't know. We probably went through both hands there, but man, I just really wish I had the exact scoring stats because, again, what a weird one.
Well, I think we do have a graphic that does show us the total score. So if we want to do some math real fast, FAU scored a combined 14 goals to Kentucky's, oh my God, is that 7? They scored 7 goals across 5 games? That has to be wrong.
I mean, we're reading it. That is 7.
Correct.
I believe that's correct, too, because Kentucky did win pretty much all nail-biters, and FAU got the blowouts. So, read it as you will. I don't really know what to make of that.
That is up there with, I reference it, like it's been so long, I've forgotten the teams that were actually involved, but there was a series a long time ago in the SCL, when it's a Game 5 overtime, with a team that lost by a single goal, being outshot by almost 3 times what their opponent put up. And with FAU doubling Kentucky's total goals in that series, with Kentucky winning in Game 5 in a nail-biter, that's up there in terms of the weirder series we've seen in SCL history. So congrats, Kentucky. You are 7-0 and one of the few teams that will come out of Tier 2 undefeated.
I mean, big shout out to them, but also not exactly a night you have to hang your head over if you are FAU. They still have a lot to prove, and for sure will be a threat because nobody's really experienced that roster publicly up until they were on stream now. So I am excited to see what they do and kind of how they reset. Also, there is some pretty interesting results to talk about.
Let's see it.
Throughout Tier 2 and Tier 1. I'll go ahead and start us off, Bepic. I'm looking at Florida Southern 3-0 over Texas Arlington.
Yep. That was a big one. I think it happened last night or earlier, maybe not earlier today, but it did secure Florida Southern their berth into playoffs. So their debut SEL season so far, it's a success as it's minimum top 12 for them. And UTA, I mean, it's been a struggle for them in Tier 1 as they could finish at the bottom of the group if Auburn is able to beat UTD Green. But outside of that, do we have any other Tier 1 results that shape things? I don't think Bruton Parker Academy or Florida have played their series yet.
Yeah, I'm really trying to find that Bruton Parker Academy Alabama score, but from what I'm seeing, they are not done. And they have not been reporting games live either. So we will just kind of have to see. In Tier 2, everything looks about as normal, except Montevallo did lose to ETSUB.
Okay, I was gonna. That was what I was looking at when you said that. If you didn't point at ETSUB and Montevallo, I was gonna be like, well, but yeah, Montevallo, a Game 5 loss there. That'll put them as the 4 seed coming out of Group 1 in Tier 2, as ETSUB will get the 3rd. So I'm glad one of the East Tennessee State teams gets a win today after the unfortunate Tech forfeit that ETSU had earlier.
Moving down the list as well, Kentucky B goes to 5 with Arkansas Little Rock. I believe Arkansas Little Rock has been eliminated officially before that matchup, but good on them for giving Kentucky B a run for their money. And then other than that, I'm going to say this very slowly as I double check. It seems like all of the other results are correct, other than a UAH Blue scare of a match against Kentucky C that did go all the way to 5, but UAH Blue do retain their spot towards the top of that group.
Oh, UAH. Well, they get the 3rd seed with the win in Game 5 there, but doesn't bode well for them going into the last chance qualifier, especially after losing their 2nd seed position that I'm sure they were aiming for after dropping to UTD JV and Auburn Orange. And well, they are the hometown favorites in the SCL, being that the SCL is a Huntsville-based organization, but not looking good for them. Should we talk about Group 3, TJ?
Did I miss anything? I mean, do we not talk about UTK
We haven't
on
mentioned
stream
it yet. We haven't mentioned
Okay,
it
go
yet.
ahead. You kick us off.
All right, so UTK upset George Mason 3-1 in that matchup, and UCF Academy did lose their series to Louisiana. We mentioned that part, and so that forces a game win percentage 3-way tiebreaker between those 3, and the 2 teams that get in are George Mason with 58% game win percentage and UTK with a 56% game win percentage. So congratulations to those 2. And UCF Academy, I am so sorry, especially for getting their hopes up for a second earlier. I went off of Liquipedia game results, but League OS is the platform you want to take results from if you're trying to figure out the last chance qualifier bracket, and UCF Academy is eliminated.
Yeah, unfortunately, on paper, UCF Academy was the team predicted to not make it out of that group, with the toughest group by far, potentially one of the toughest groups that in SCL history. But also their game differential is simply just not enough. And I hate saying that, but when you're looking at previous series to maybe hang your hat on, you look at just last week against Alabama B. I think that's the one that really nailed them in.
And looking elsewhere, I mean that Bama B result doesn't help, but Bama B is looking good. I'm optimistic about that roster. And going into the Rising Star playoffs, TJ, I'm curious right now that results are coming. We kind of know who's competing. Who do you have as the favorite in that bracket? Is it UCF Academy?
Oh, man. I was trying to get all my group pages up and ready to go. Off the rip, off my first initial thoughts, I don't think UCF's going to win it, but I'm trying to remember who else is going to end up down there as well. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, I should know the answer to this, but I don't. In terms of teams who make the LCQ but fall out, they do not get to go to Rising Star playoffs, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, wow. Yeah, I guess looking at the group standings, I'm probably putting my money on... Oh, man. I have distant faith for UTA Orange. I don't know if they can beat a talented UCF team, but who knows? Northern Kentucky, if they fall, or Mississippi State C, I think both those schools are great options. And then, obviously, I have to put UGA in there somewhere, and Clemson B as well, because they did look great last season. I'm not sure. I have to see more out of UCF. But they did beat a UTK team that was a really good win. So I guess as of right now, I do have to give them the nod, but I don't know if I would confirm it just yet.
Clemson B might not be playing in the Rising Star playoffs, TJ.
Are they?
UAB got 3-0'd by Florida State. Clemson B won their series, and the head-to-head there goes to Clemson B. So if UGA ends up winning, they would force a 3-way tiebreaker, and with UAB getting 3-0'd, I mean, they were already below Clemson B in game differential. So, yeah, Clemson B is qualified for the last chance qualifier.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, in that case, I definitely have to put my money on UAB somewhere in there. That's man, I feel for UAB too. They have fought tooth and nail to get there, and coming up a few games short in that three-way tiebreaker, UGA should have beaten UTK Gray. I would hope that's a 3-0, but dang. Okay, well, I'm glad you brought that up because I had thought it was the other way around. So unfortunate for UAB.
And like we've been talking about, League OS, once all things are verified, that's your source for confirmation. What TJ and I say does not go. We could be wrong, as I was earlier with the calculations in Group 3. So I'm saying that, doing the math in my head while trying to perform on a stream. So it could be wrong, but I'm confident it's not. So we'll see what happens. But that does bring us to the end of the TJ birthday show. So I think, TJ, it's time for you to head off and celebrate your 21st. And so we say good night for the night. So any last words?
I mean, hey, you'll see both me and you down at the beach this weekend. It's one of my favorite lands. I get to work every year, and it is a beautiful setup in beautiful Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I believe it will be streamed on the Syracuse YouTube channel, the Syracuse Esports YouTube channel. But obviously check our socials for that, and you'll get to follow us into the weekend, where we also get to follow many SEL teams as well. Yep. USC, Kentucky, UTD, just to name a few, and then even some old friends like UNCC. You're not going to want to miss it, and we'll see you guys ideally this weekend.
Yeah, it'll be a fun land. But one last shout out to MSI, of course, our proud sponsor of Rocket League this SEL season. A big part of what we are able to do, the chaos we are able to unfurl on broadcast in front of you. So thank you, MSI. And if you can, make sure you're supporting them just as much as you all support us. Shout out to the viewers. Shout out to the players. Shout out to Shaka in the background, pushing all the buttons for us today, helping manage things on the back end. TJ, shout out to you. Happy birthday one last time. But for everyone else, I've been Mr. Bepic. Have a good night, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place for Valorant. you